What's up, guys? My name is Justin. For those of you who don't know me, I'm the owner of Prime Landscaping and Snow Removal, Inc. I run a lawn care and construction company here in Rockland County, New York. We service the nearby areas, and we're on track to do over $2 million 2024. So I get asked a lot, how do I start my own lawn care company in 2024? So we're gonna go through that step by step. We're gonna go over equipment, customers, time, services, pricing, organization and legalities, and lastly, marketing. Make sure you go through this in order. Do not do this first. Do not do this first. Let's go in order. Other than that, let's go ahead and let's get right into it. So step one, equipment. Here, you need to understand that everybody's gonna be in a different position. Everybody's gonna have their own story. You know, you may have a truck, another guy may have a truck and trailer, another guy may have access to 10 mowers. Everybody's gonna be in a different position. That doesn't mean it's not possible in any of the stages that you're in, but there's some things that you're gonna have to do along to be able to keep moving forward, right? Some people have access to a lot more resources than some other people, but that's okay. Follow the steps, you'll understand where you're at, and you can just grow from there. So like I said, number one is equipment. So to get right into it is, what do you have? Then it's, what do you have access to? And then lastly, what can you rent and what can you own? So in this step, it's basically understanding your resources. What do I have? Like, do I have a mower in my garage? Do I have a weed whacker? Do I have something? Because if all you have is a pair of scissors, you're not gonna get very far. So it's, what do you actually have access to right now, right away? If somebody needed to cut their grass now, can you do it? Then it's, what do you have access to? Well, okay, somebody needs to mow their lawn today. You don't have anything in your garage. You don't have anything in your truck. Can you call somebody? Does your neighbor have a lawnmower? Does your uncle have a lawnmower? Your friend maybe? Does somebody have a lawnmower that you can borrow? The next thing is renting versus owning. Maybe this is a much bigger job that you might have just landed or whatever it is, right? It could be a bigger property, maybe an acre lot that you have to cut the grass for. And now you're deciding, okay, I want to start a lawn care company, but should I rent or own for this first job? Well, now we go back to the resources, right? Renting versus owning. Everything is about money. So renting up front will be a lower cost, because you'll be paying a small fee to rent it for the day. Now, if you have a lot more resources, like maybe, you know, your uncle, your dad, somebody could let you borrow some money, or maybe you have a credit card, you can go and purchase a lawnmower, right? It doesn't have to be nothing extravagant, just could be a push mower. You could probably buy one on Facebook or Home Depot, whatever it is, right? But right in this stage is kind of like, okay, well, how serious do you want to get? How fast can you grow? Because if you own it, then maybe you can go and talk to the neighbors, but that's, you know, in the later steps. Now that we've established and understand the equipment phase of it, which is, again, what do you have? What do you have access to? Should I rent or should I own at the stage that I am at? And then lastly, something that is also very important is transportation. If all you have is a bicycle, how are you gonna mow John Smith across town? What if you don't have anything, but you have a truck and trailer? Well, then now you could look at the renting option. All this is like a puzzle. It's gonna be mixed match. Some people may have it all, some people may not, some people may have pieces. Everybody is in a completely different position, but you have to identify where you are, because once you know where you are, then you know what you have to do to then start leveling up and actually starting this business. Step number two is customers. It's identifying your potential customers. Now, the first thing you have to ask yourself is, who do you know? So this is real simple, right? Who do you know? Take your phone out, go to your contacts list, kind of scroll through there and see, okay, who has a house? Whose friends' parents have a house that could let me mow their lawn? Because a lot of people would like to support, you know, a young guy, especially for a very low barrier type of business. There's no risk. You're cutting somebody's lawn, you're not building them a house. So a lot of people are actually willing to support this stuff, right? You could go knock on somebody's door. It's very low liability. People are more willing to give you a chance. Like I said, is who do you know, right? Identifying your potential customers. Go through your phone, contacts, messages, social medias, anything that you have, go through it, see who you can contact, see who you think and would give you a chance to provide them that service. Next is neighbors. Now, if you live in a house, then, you can talk to your neighbors. They'd probably be more than happy to support your new business venture. So talk to your neighbors, see if there's anything that you can help them out with, lawn care related. I'm gonna get into something called Tier 1 later in this video, which is gonna be something for you to understand what you can offer. But for now, customers, neighbors. Next is coworkers. So right now you probably, have a job, a regular job, and just like anything else, it's people you talk to and see every day. Tell them about your new business venture. Tell them what you're doing, and you could even say, hey, this is what I'm doing. This is what I'm starting. Can you help me? Do you know anybody who needs this service? I'm ready to offer it right away, right? That's after step 1, after you've identified everything. You know what you have, what you have access to, what you need to rent, and you identified how you're going to transport everything, right? Going back to the customers, who do you know? Contact, social media, then talking to your neighbors, coworkers, everything like that. And remember, in this step, you're not necessarily doing outreach. You're just making a note of who would benefit from your services. And then it goes back to who would benefit from your services based on what you have, which is in step 1. Then after you identify what you have, then it's gonna be, well, what can I do? You see, this all ties back together, and that's why we're running through all these steps, right? Because these are all the questions I had when I first started. So you're not outreaching yet, you're just making a note of who would probably benefit from landscaping services that you know. So once you've identified equipment, what you have access to, and then you identify customers, who do you know, neighbors, coworkers, everything like that. Then we go into time. How much time do you have to invest into this business? And by that, you may have a job, you work Monday through Friday, maybe even Monday through Saturday. Maybe you even have 2 jobs and you're working 7 days a week and you're looking to do this to escape that rat race, right? So how much time do you have to invest into this? Like I said, do you have a full-time job? Do you have a part-time job? Do you have a full-time and a part-time job? Or are you unemployed? If you're unemployed, that means you have all the time in the world. So to identify time, right, is hours. Identify literally how many hours. Like, okay, yeah, you have a full-time job, but maybe you get out at 4. Sun doesn't set till 9 o'clock. So on Monday, get out at 4, get home by 5, change, whatever. Sun sets at 9 in peak of summer. So you have 4 hours. And maybe that's your schedule for the entire week. So then that's 4 times 5, that's 20 hours a week. Maybe you could do all day Saturday, all day Sunday. That's another 10 hours each day. I mean, just right there, 40 hours, that's a full-time job. Moving along to what everybody loves to talk about, services. And services is gonna be broken down into 4 tiers, because remember, everything ties back to what do you have access to, who would benefit from your product, how much time do you have, and then all that ties in with services. Okay, well, if you don't have a lot of time, but you have access to a lot of things, well, maybe you'd be a lot more efficient than somebody else who has a lot of time, but doesn't have access to some things. Again, everybody is in a completely different boat. So don't compare. Comparison is the thief of joy. Everybody's in a completely different position. So to get right back into it, services is going to be broken down into 4 tiers, and each of these tiers, we're going to try to break down what you have and skill set, right? So you can kind of understand where you are and then what you can offer to these potential customers. That way you aren't over leveraged or underselling yourself. So it's going to be basically 4 tiers. Tier 1, Tier 2, Tier 3, and Tier 4. To get right into it, Tier 1, right? Handyman services. This is very basic, very entry level. Does somebody want their grass cut, trimming, anything handyman service related? Tier 1 is handyman services, and the reason that is because you need cash. That's what you need to be able to continue to grow. You need to just get paid for doing whatever possible services you can with what you have and how much time you have and who your customers are, right? So Tier 1, handyman services, and obviously the biggest and the most important thing about Tier 1 is cash. Get paid. That's it. Get paid. Do whatever you have to do. Provide services, easy services, get paid. Everybody's gonna be pretty much here. Tier 1, right? Some people might have a little bit more. We'll get into that in a second. Tier 1 is all those services, cutting grass, trimming, whatever. And the good thing about it is you're gonna be able to get paid. Tier 2, landscape installs. This right here is going to be a little bit more advanced. These services here are going to be not your typical handyman services of things that you can just do, right? right? Landscape installs is definitely going to require a little bit more skill set. It's going to be depending on what you know, then who you know. Maybe you know somebody that does have experience, right? So in landscape installs, which is tier 2, you can offer mulch, then you can offer planting. And planting, whether that be trees, shrubs, flowers, you know, anything like that. And just know, flowers, bushes, then trees. Trees are gonna get a lot harder than, you know, what a small bush would be. Going back to tier 2, right? This is definitely a little bit more advanced than your regular tier 1, like I said. So when you're selling these services, if you don't know anything about this, definitely do a lot of research on it. On my channel, I'm gonna be putting out videos soon on how to do this stuff, but this is now services that you can sell for a lot more cash, a lot more money, because we want to get the ball rolling. We want to get a lot of projects and a lot of jobs done. So remember, these tier 2 services are going to be much more profitable than these tier 1 services. However, they're going to be a lot harder. They're going to probably require more money up front, because now you have material costs. Now you have tools that you have to purchase if you don't already have it, going back to step 1, right? And then even with tier 2 mulch jobs, it could be 20 yards of mulch. Now, who do you know that could bring you 20 yards of mulch? 20 yards of mulch takes a lot of time. Do you have the time for it? You know, you don't want to do a 20-yard mulch job and then take 2 weeks to do it. Tier 2 is definitely more advanced than tier 1. Tier 1 is quick money, cash, in and out, usually 1 to 2 days. Tier 2, typically 2 to anywhere 5 days. However, it's a lot more advanced, because if you plant a tree, you don't know what's under there. You may need to get an excavator there. It could be a 2-inch caliper tree, which is, you know, 15 feet tall. You'll be digging forever if you got to plant 10 of them. So understand what you can do when you're here in tier 2. Make sure you do your research, call suppliers, connect with other landscapers who are in the business, and ask very progressive questions. So moving on to tier 3. Lighting and irrigation. Keep in mind that tier 3 is now a lot more advanced than tier 2. It's going to require a lot more money, a lot more different tools, and then most importantly, skill set, experience, and knowledge, right? When you're here, when you're in tier 3, something to keep in mind too, which will help some of you guys, is don't get too ahead of yourself. Just really understand where you are, the position you're in, and just grow accordingly. Take it easy. You know what I mean? I'm telling you, because I was guilty of this too. Don't compare. Your time will come. You will know how to do all this stuff. Just take your time, because you don't want to be in tier 2 and plant $5,000 worth of stuff for somebody, and maybe you plant everything in shade, and those plants are supposed to be in the sun, and now they're all dead. You don't want to screw yourself over. Same thing with lighting, irrigation. Now this is much higher investment jobs for the customer. So if you don't know what you're doing, they could spend on average with you $5,000, $10,000, whatever it is. If you mess that up, then now you're screwing yourself over, you're hurting your reputation, and I mean, you should go back and make it right. Whatever you don't do right, go back, make it right. So do your research, do it right, don't do it twice. Do as much research as possible. Have that childlike curiosity. I have a video on that. That's how I was able to learn all this stuff, because I just put my head down and I just researched everything I possibly could. And it's much easier nowadays with, you know, AI. You could ask that thing anything. To get right back into it, lighting and irrigation. Again, more advanced, different types of tools. Now, tier 3, you can also upsell, because if you did the mulch and plants and some trees, now you can upsell the lighting. Makes the house a lot more beautiful, landscaping, lights it up, really just ties it together. I love lighting. And then, okay, well, now you just planted, you know, $10,000 worth of trees. Well, needs water or it's gonna die. So tier 2 and tier 3 are really not that far from each other. They're very close. You know, once you're in the higher stages of tier 2, you're gonna be right in the lower stages of tier 3. Now, something that I'd recommend, highly recommend, I'd say lighting, anybody can do it. It's 2 wires. I'll have a video on that soon, or if anybody wants to see it ASAP, you know, let us know and we'll definitely put it out ASAP. Irrigation is a little bit more complex. Now plumbing's involved, water pressure, all these crazy words, right? Like, it's definitely a little bit more complex. So something about tier 3 is that lighting is like the golden ticket. You can have very low skill set in it. You have to do it right, obviously, but very low skill set, but you can charge a lot of money for it. A lot more money than you would in tier 1, even tier 2. So lighting is very high leverage, very profitable, example, something very important for you to learn. Now, when it comes to irrigation, definitely a lot more complicated. I'd say connect with an irrigation company, sprinkler company in your area. Go to your local suppliers, meet people in the business. Meet somebody. When you're in tier 1, meet somebody who's in tier 4. When you're in tier 1, meet somebody who's in tier 3. Even meet somebody that's in tier 1, because he might know something that you don't. Meet as many people as you can. When I was in tier 1, I connected with a lot of people, like other landscapers here in my area who helped me out a ton. I could ask them anything. I could text them now to this day. Hey man, how do you do this? How do you do this? Where can I get this? Where can I get that? Connect with these people, because you never know what you might need. Never know, maybe a guy in tier 3 could have a slow week and you have a tier 2 job. He's free. He can help you. Split profit, whatever it is, whatever you guys agree on, but now you're pushing things along. And let's just say you did do that. Now tier 2, wherever customer you're doing that service for, is now happy because you completed your end of the bargain, and they're gonna have a barbecue this weekend and they're gonna tell all their friends and family about you. So just make it happen. Look at what you have on the board, look at what you have in front of you, and just make it work. That's it. So now that we've covered tier 1, 2, and 3, we're gonna go ahead and move on to tier 4. Tier 4 is gonna be pavers. Anything masonry related, construction related. But keep in mind, it gets harder as you go, right? Tier 4 is definitely gonna be a lot more advanced. It's gonna require a lot more experience, a lot more knowledge, equipment, tools, money, because start getting into this stuff, you need to dish out a lot of cash up front to get the materials to the site. So again, pavers, they're gonna require the most skill, most experience, a lot of moving pieces, right? Because you could get a job, maybe it's a new construction, so you have a blank slate. Is it a big house? Is it a small house? How accessible is it? You need to rent something, right? Do you own an excavator? How many of these jobs are you getting, right? Now that you start asking yourself all those questions, and even within the job itself is, okay, like, am I replacing something? Do I have to get a dumpster there? How far is the junk where I'm gonna dump the old stuff? All that stuff you start asking yourself, because you need to understand the process. And the fastest way to get from tier 1 to tier 4 is just knowing as many people doing this. Because even if you're in tier 2 and tier 3, you can do the same exact thing I said when you were in tier 2, which is you're in tier 2 and tier 3 and you land or somehow get a recommendation for a job in tier 4. As long as you know somebody in tier 4, you can make it happen. However, before you do as much research as possible. Ask as many questions as you can to, your suppliers, customers, or whatever, right? Just understand everything. Whenever you start this job, you need as much research as if you've done this 100 times. You have to be so certain. You know every step of the way. Don't go into it if you don't know what goes after you dig. You understand everything. You dig, where you're gonna get your stone, what stone, where, why, everything. Now that we've touched on tier 1, tier 2, 3, and 4, right? Obviously it went from easiest to less cash to about very difficult to do, but more money, more meat on the bone, right? So now that we went over tier 1, 2, 3, and 4, these are all services that you can offer, right? But it goes back to the beginning. Who do you know with the skill set? What do you have access to? Equipment wise, transportation, anything like that. And then lastly, time. How much time do you have? Because you can't do tier 4 stuff if you have 2 jobs. So everything ties back to the beginning. Very important to make lots of notes and ask yourself a lot of questions as we're going through the beginning part of this video. So once we've established and learned and understood all of this, we go into the next thing. We're no longer in the tiers, but we go back to the steps. So step 5 is now pricing, because we're in this to make money. This isn't charity. We're here, we want to make money, want to take care of our family, you want to buy a Lambo, whatever you want to buy. We're here for money. Pricing is the most important thing. When it comes to this, I'm just going to keep it very basic, because a lot of people are definitely going to be just in the tier 1. And also, who's ever watching this may not be in my area. I'm in New York, you may be way upstate where there's farms. So it's going to be completely different. Like I said, everybody is in a completely different position. You can have all that stuff, but you may not be in the best market. So understand that pricing is just based on where you're at, the market that you're in. So to get right into it, when it comes to pricing, what you need to do is research in your area, your market. Look at what homes cost in your area, Zillow.com. Are houses selling for over $500,000? Do the research. Next is shopping competition. So I did this when I first started. I didn't know what it cost to cut down a tree at all. I had no idea. So I just called and got a quote for a tree that was in my parents' backyard. And from there, I was like, oh, okay, so like this is what this costs. From there, I was able to break things down, which is also very important for you to do. The company that did provide me with that estimate was very descriptive, so I actually ended up understanding the entire thing. So something that you can do too is when you start getting into the higher tiers of services, be very descriptive. And again, that goes back to knowledge. So research, shopping, competition, and then lastly is network. Talk to other people in this business. Join groups as much as you can. Go to suppliers on rainy days. That's what I did. Go meet other people in this business and figure out what they're charging. Ask them. Most people don't care. When I first started, I asked everything. What do you charge for this? What do you charge for that? What do you charge for this? I would text people, hey man, what do you charge for this? What can I get this for? Ask. Believe it or not, a lot of people don't care if you ask. I don't care. Somebody could ask me, I'll tell them. You know what I mean? I just got asked the other day. Pricing, very simple. It's going to be very different, right? Like I said, do your research, shop competition, network with other people, other contractors that are in the same business as you. Understand that I can't give you pricing because you may not be where I am at the level that I'm at. Because for mulch, I charge $100 to $125 a yard, right? But I have mulch that I can get at a certain price, much lower than most people. Then I have a truck to pick up 14 yards at a time. I have a trailer that can pick up 18 yards at a time. Then I have guys that can put down a lot of mulch fast because they're experienced, going back to the earlier steps and tiers. So go back, network with other contractors in your area, understand what the game is in your area. And just know something that is very important with pricing, I'll write it down here, is experience. Just know that your first job, you might make a lot of money. The second job, you might lose your shirt. It just comes with experience, but it also comes with all of these three things. If you do these three things very well, the experience will come fast and you won't go through so many bad losses. So don't get lazy with this stuff. Stay on top of it. It'll take time, and don't be discouraged if you lose your shirt. It's okay. It happens. If it does happen, look back at it, analyze, see what you did wrong. Don't let it happen again. Best way to avoid that is, again, research, competition, network. Moving along, step 6. We're getting into now the stuff that most people should do and don't do for whatever reason. This is now organization and legalities. Organization we'll touch on first. When it comes to organization, is basically as you're moving along in all the steps and the tiers, tier 2, tier 3, whatever it is, you want to be organized. Have some sort of software or even paper, keep your overhead low. Don't spend a ton of money on crazy softwares that cost over $500 a month. It's stupid. I made that mistake. Don't do it. There's QuickBooks is like $100 a month. You can stick to that, but be organized. Have a CRM. You need your customers' information. You need phone numbers, you need emails, customers, who you can call for suppliers, who your competition is, or who your contractors in your network are, right? Organize. And then obviously the fun stuff, the legalities, which I did first. I did that first. The reason I did that first was because I did have access to money. Now, not everybody's going to be in the same position. Again, everybody's in a completely different boat, but I tackled legalities right away because I just knew I was going to grow fast because I was so dedicated. And basically legalities, all that includes is licensing. And again, this is very different in your area because 30 minutes from here in Orange County, you can build a skyscraper. You don't need a license. Colorado, you can put a pool on the roof. You don't need a pool license. You don't even need a general contractor license to build the house. So call your local town. You can ask for the building department or you can ask for consumer protection. Consumer protection is usually the people who will issue these licenses. Or again, if you do your research, talk with other contractors, ask them, hey, do you have a license? How do I get one? Where do I get one? Why do I get one? Because I'll give you another example. I'm in New York. 15 minutes right from here is New Jersey. In New Jersey, you need a license for landscaping construction, but you don't need a license for lawn care. Lawn care, anything cutting grass, you can cut somebody's grass, you can cut 2,000 houses, you don't need a license. So ask, research. It goes back to all the other steps. And again, licensing depends on your area. You could be 5 minutes from me, you need a license, right? Here, Rockland County. Wherever you are, do your research. You don't want to be doing a $50,000 job with no license. You could get fines, fees, whole bunch of crazy stuff. It's not worth it. My license cost me like $700 a year. It's cheap. My New Jersey license cost me like $400. It's cheap. So it's probably cheap wherever you are. And if it is, just do it. Some states may be harder to get than others. Figure it out, do your research, do what you have to do to get that ball rolling. So after licensing, a key thing to know in your business is it legit? So we go into formation. Now, it's up to you. If you want your business to be legal and stuff, you want to have the formation correct, down packed, everything that you need from the state, from the government. So I had the cash to go to an accountant. An accountant here in New York State. You know, as long as you're in the US, maybe you can go to your accountant or CPA. But I went to my accountant that I just found on Google. I started there first. That was step one, find an accountant, then formation, and then insurances, and then licensing. That's what I did. I didn't know what I was doing. I've heard of all these websites like LegalZoom, and you could do it yourself on the government website. But for me, it was not worth the headache. So went to an accountant, had it done right, did the formation, had it done right. They gave me a binder with all my documents, EIN, filing receipt, all that good stuff. And then after you do the formation,